You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
This episode is brought to you by Tic Tac. Minty, refreshing, classic. And it's not just the Tic Tac mints. It's the new track by Kenise with beats that'll leave you feeling as refreshed as a Tic Tac and a vibe that'll take you on a ride through 100 layers of flavor. Does it get any fresher than this?
Tic Tac, enjoy the bright side. That 100-layer joyride. Pop one, let's paint the town. Freshman flavors all around. Take a ride on a Tic Tac.
Pick up a pack of Tic Tac mints today.
What is up, good people? As I record this, I have just returned from NAMM. I'm literally recording this intro like 30 minutes before I drop the episode. I got back in town yesterday. We had a great show at the Stringjoy booth. If you came by and said hi, thank you so much. That really meant a lot. There were a ton of Tone Mob listeners and Chasing Tone listeners that stopped by and said hi, thanks for the show, etc. And I really, really appreciated that very, very much. It was really, really cool to meet you all. Additionally, there were a lot of people that I didn't get to talk to, some of whom passed by while I was talking to a dealer or something, and we waved and said hello. And I'm sorry we didn't get to spend as much quality time as I would have liked to. Both some old friends and some new potential friends that I believe I missed out on. So unfortunately, that's just the way these trade show things go sometimes. There's only so many hours in the day. So that's the way the cookie crumbles. But like I said, Stringjoy had a great show. We made a lot of great contacts. We talked to a lot of new dealers, and we are really, really excited for the future. If you happen to have a favorite dealer in your town that we're not carried in, have them hit us up. That's the way these things tend to work. When the customers are asking for things, that's when the dealers take action. So if you have a favorite dealer in your town that does not carry Stringjoy, have them hit us up. We would love to talk to them, and I think we have a pretty solid pitch that's just helpful for the dealer, for us, and for you guys. So please have your favorite dealer hit us up. We would very, very much appreciate that. All right. You know somebody else I met at NAMM? Well, actually, I met him on this podcast, but we met in person at NAMM is Daniel, this week's guest. Daniel plays guitar in a band called Fit for a King, which, if you're a fan of metalcore at all, I am sure you have heard of at the very least and probably heard at some point. They're a great band. He's a great dude, and we dive right on into it. So let's get to the episode. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff occasionally sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today I have Daniel Gailey from Fit for a King. What's going on, dude?
Dude, doing well. Thanks for having me. Stoked to be here.
Yeah, this is a good time. We were talking off the air, I always sounds weird to say off the air because this isn't on the air, but you know. Yeah. You just got back from Japan, which is a bucket list place for me as well. And you mentioned that it was beautiful. You enjoyed Japan?
Oh, dude, amazing. Just did one show over there. It's actually I'm in two bands, so I play in Fit for a King primarily, but I play in another band called Phineas. Mm-hmm. So Phineas went to Japan and just did one show. It was a festival out there called Frontline Festival right outside of Tokyo. And, dude, it was amazing. Show was great, but like, honestly, like the show was like the least cool part of the trip. It was just like, okay, cool. We ripped a gig in Japan. That's amazing. But spent a week over there and just got to explore and flew my wife out and stuff. So that was like really awesome to get to do.
Yeah. Yeah. We're looking at, it sounds weird, but every few years, my wife and I were like, oh, we want to do a bigger trip, not just, a weekend or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I want to go all over the place. But then that totally got just derailed like everybody else the last few years. Now we're sitting here going like, I think we can actually go places now. Where do we want to go? And Japan is up there. What type of things did you do while you were there? A friend of mine's getting ready to go too. So part of this is a little bit self-serving.
So, I do wish that we had a little bit more time because we really only got to spend time around Tokyo. It would have been really cool to get to see like Osaka and like Kyoto and like all of these other cool places, but you need time. And it's like you got to take like a bullet train like to get to those places and stuff. So really we just hung around in Tokyo, but there's plenty to see. So much like amazing food. We tried like crazy stuff. Like the I don't know if you're familiar with the band Crystal Lake, but we're good friends with those guys, and they took us around, showed us around, and we ate like raw horse meat and like raw organs, like all kinds of crazy shit. It was wild. Other than that, like we're big Disney fans, so we did they have 2 Disney parks out there. And then just, like exploring as much of the city as possible.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a really good time.
Okay, we got to get into this because as much as I love gear, I love food even more. Raw horse meat.
Yeah, man.
I would try it. I'm not saying I wouldn't, but man, that's got to be kind of weird for a Westerner.
Yeah. Well, I told some of the people out there, I was like, especially when I'm traveling, I like to be adventurous. I like to do things that I can't do at home, and like
sure.
I'll try anything. So they gave us like all these recommendations, and so we tried it, and it was really good. It was just kind of like if you've ever had like Wagyu beef or something like that, it's like pretty similar. It's like a little gamey, but the flavor was like really good, and you mix it with like this kind of like sweet soy sauce.
Okay.
And, I put like garlic on there and stuff. It was good. The worst thing I had by far was this like squid.
Yeah.
And I gotta hopefully like camera quality is good enough to show you this, but I took a picture of it just because it looked scary.
Okay.
Here it is. So,
and here we go.
This.
Whoa! What?
I don't know if it'll. It's like you can see like its eyes, and like, dude, it was so bad. I couldn't finish it. And it just you chew nonstop. It never shrinks down like enough to swallow. So that was pretty rough. But all the other stuff that sounds way crazier actually was like really delicious, and definitely would eat again. So.
Yeah. Some of the stuff I'm like all in on, like 100%.
Oh yeah.
But I did. My friend sent me a video. He's like, "Would you eat this?" Because I'm kind of like you. I'm fairly adventurous too. And it was like a living squid. Like it was still alive, and it's like wriggling around in their mouth and stuff. I'm like I'll go places, but I can't do that.
I draw the line there. Well, I guess it would depend on just like what constitutes as eating, because like I'll like throw something in and just like down the hatch swallow, but I don't think I could chew something living. It'd have to be like glass of water, take it like a pill or something,
Right, but then it's like in there swimming around for a little while. I don't know. That seems
I'd have to have a few cold ones, I think, before doing something like that.
Yeah, I might have to have more than a few. Yeah. Speaking of that, like, what is the general, like, you hear all these stories, right? What is the general culture around alcohol like there? Sometimes you hear like, oh, people are just hammered in the street, but I don't know. What's it like over there?
I only saw one dude the whole time that we were there that was like he was gone. I mean, by the time that granted, this was like 5 a.m., after like late night, like karaoke, like all, the whole thing.
Yeah.
This dude was like laid out on the street, like paramedics were like taking him away.
Oh no.
But that was like a rarity. That was the only person that I saw, like, because it is legal to like drink on the street there and everything, but people are so respectful and so like, proper and everything that I'd say that's got to be pretty rare to have people. Anyone that's going to be trash like that is probably going to be someone visiting,
Right. It's going to be an American.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it was cool though. I mean, it was, I'm a big beer guy, and Japan's not really like the place. Like if you're like all into like different types of beer, it's mainly just like lagers and pilsners, but like they're good. I didn't have anything bad, Yeah.
So. I know. Yeah. I've been into the craft beer thing for quite a while, a little less so in the last few years. I kind of got a little bit bored with it, but that's one thing that Japan is known for is like their whiskeys and stuff. And so I when I first started hearing about that, for some reason, it didn't make sense in my brain. And then when I really thought about it, it's like, well, of course, they do everything to the nth degree of perfection over there. At least anything that's difficult, they always try to get it just dialed in. So of course their whiskeys are going to be phenomenal.
Yeah. And it was. I got to try some, and I got to bring some home as well. But like, man, is it strong? Dude, it was like, woo, like put hair on your chest for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, that's probably enough with the Japan segment of the podcast. This is brought to you by the tourism board for Japan. Yeah. But let's talk about you. So obviously this is a guitar podcast in theory, and we talk about guitars, but when did you start playing, and how did that lead to, playing shows in Japan?
Sure. So I started playing guitar when I was 9 years old. I'm 34 now. I'll let listeners do the math there. But I've been playing for a long time. And, like throughout high school, it's kind of like, I've always been into like, I don't know, I guess like I'd consider, like classic rock kind of stuff. Like started playing guitar because of like Van Halen and stuff like that, Boston, bands like that. In high school, kind of started getting into like more metal and stuff. And, played around in some like local bands and whatnot. And then pretty much right out of high school, I got the opportunity to start touring with a band called Becoming the Archetype. And this would have probably been around like 2009 or something like that. Toured with them for a few years. Got to go to like South Africa with those guys. Like just crazy opportunity, for somebody who was just like kind of just like playing in local bands and bedroom before that, So through them, met the Phineas guys, who I still play shows with occasionally. We don't tour as much anymore, but still try to stay somewhat active. Still do records every couple of years, and then it's really just kind of been like climbing a ladder. Like met the Fit guys through touring with Phineas, and like just kind of happened to where they needed somebody, and I was just like, yeah, like I'll do that. So yeah, it's been just like a long road of just touring, and just being at the right place, right time, meeting the right people. So yeah.
And has your gear tastes or preferences changed, with band to band, or have you largely stuck to the same stuff?
I am like definitely a creature of habit. I pretty much always play the same shape. Just like I play ESP guitars, so I'm pretty much always playing like something with a double cut, like an M, or like I've been really into like their snapper models, but everything always has to have a Floyd Rose, big Floyd guy. And yeah, I mean, I would say that like more so maybe like the amp side of things have changed, but it's also largely because like a lot of the things that exist now didn't exist when I started playing guitar. So a lot of that has changed, but I've been with ESP for a pretty long time now. But growing up, I had like a couple Ibanez's, and I think I had like a Jackson at one point, stuff like that. So all like pretty similar style guitars. 24 frets, gotta have it. And Floyd, those are really my only two like must-haves in a guitar. But yeah, I mean, as far as amps and stuff, it's like we've been on Kempers for like the last several years now, but we're actually moving over to quads pretty soon. Nice. So I'm excited about that. Much smaller, more convenient to kind of carry around. I can never take my Kemper home because it's just so inconvenient. So
right,
it just stays in Texas with the band stuff,
What do you play at home?
Mostly just plugins. Like I've got like a little studio set up, and doesn't look like much right now. My wife and I just moved into this house like a few weeks ago, so still kind of getting things set up. But I've been I play through a lot of stuff. Like I mean, lately it's been like a lot of the STL stuff.
Love that stuff.
Yeah, dude. The Tone Hub like stuff is great, and it's just like nice, like quick plug and play, but I do a lot of like mixing and like producing stuff as well. so yeah, I've gotten pretty good at like making like a digital, plug-in rig sound like the way that I'd like it to sound. So it works.
So what when you were talking about doing excuse me. Whoa. Apparently I can't talk today. That's great.
That's how I'd sounded after eating that squid, dude.
Dude. So when you're talking about doing production and stuff, do you do it there at your home studio, or do you fly to places, or what's that usually look like?
Both. So I have like a pretty portable rig. So I've done a bunch of fly out stuff, help writing songs, and then generally, I'll mix at home and stuff. But as far as engineering and producing, I can kind of do that really wherever. Or people, have come here. I live in Southern California. So, work with a lot of bands like out of the Bay Area or like along the West Coast. But, I've flown out I'm from Georgia originally, done a lot of work out there, done some work in the Midwest. Like I've kind of been all over the States doing it. But yeah, I mean, I don't prefer one or the other. Like it's all just kind of like, all right, like just trying to get some work done like while I'm not touring. And but yeah, it's fun. I enjoy it.
How did you get into that?
So that kind of started from back when I was first, starting to play in bands and just needing a way to kind of help write and like see things like more full picture. And I actually started with software called Guitar Pro. That's like a MIDI.
Oh yeah.
And you can do like full band arrangements on there, and it's all MIDI. But like the later versions kind of had like this real sound engineering thing that they added, and it still sounded like. But I was like, oh, it sounds a little bit better than MIDI. So that was kind of just like a natural progression into getting to actual got an interface. Started learning all about that, and so I mean, this has been pretty long time ago at this point. I'd say 15 or so years ago. But yeah, just like through trial and error and just years and years and years of practice, started getting better and more confident with, the things that I was trying to achieve. And then just kind of started working with bands and not just my own stuff, So yeah, it was like just kind of became like a hobby turned like side hustle sort of thing,
Mm-hmm. Was it weird when bands first started approaching you, or did that happen pretty organically?
I'd say it was pretty organic. I would put stuff out that like my bands at the time were doing, and through that it was just like essentially like free, like promotion on just like like I mixed, produce these whatever, and so it's kind of like. You get one in like a certain area and then all of their buddies are going to hear it kind of thing. So like, just like the material itself kind of helps things like that pretty organically. Like I don't ever really have to post about it or anything. And I don't do it full time. So it would be really difficult to take on like a ton of clients, I tour like 7 to 8 months out of the year. So
gnarly.
Yeah, it's a lot. I've been on the road 5 out of the last 6 months, and this is like the first time I've been home during all of that. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, I've talked about this a lot on the podcast over the years, but part of the reason, I never thought I was going to be in the music industry in any capacity whatsoever, because my view on it was that you go and you're in a band and then you're touring for 5 months out of the year and you're living in a van and all that. And I knew I was not cut out for that. I was like, there's no way. Like I hate road trips, like with a deep passion, which some people think I'm weird, including the rest of my family, but I've never liked them. Never like 4 hours that's about as long as I want to be in a car. I just really don't like them. But it was kind of a bummer because music is my passion. I love music. I'm obsessed with sound. And so it was kind of a weird thought process to think, oh, this thing that you love, you can never really do to the level that you want to do it. And unfortunately, that's just a lot of people's mindset, even today, even though there's so many other paths, like you could get into production or you could get into, live sound, locally. There's like so many avenues for getting into the music industry that aren't being in a touring band, that I wish that was talked about more, because there's kids like me out there that don't want to tour but love the stuff. And I find it very admirable for somebody who can take the abuse of the road like you can. I don't know how you do it.
I think I owe a lot of that just to like starting really young, to be honest. Like, who knows if, like if I were to start now, I'd probably be like, this sucks.
Right.
You know what I mean? But like, it's just really, it's like, people who like work the same job for a long time, they're like, oh, it's like all I really know. And like, that's very true. You know what I mean? Like, even through like all of my like relationships and stuff, it's like, that's just like, we're used to it. Like my wife and I, like COVID was the longest period of time that we'd ever spent like in the same area together, which is crazy to think about for most people. But yeah, I mean, that's just what we're used to. We're both like pretty independent people, and we make it work. And I mean, it's at the end of the day, like I love what I do, but it's a career, you know what I mean? So it's like, got to work to make a living. This is kind of my, like, I didn't like go to college or anything like that. Like this is it for right now,
Totally. Yeah. It's, you're right. I didn't really think about it in those terms, but I remember all the jobs that I would used to have, lots of nights, lots of weekends, lots of random. I remember working on a boat one evening. It wasn't even evening. It was like 2 a.m. And one of my friends was texting me, and I was like, oh, sorry, I got to go do whatever with this boat. And he's like, what do you mean with a boat? It's 2 a.m. Like, dude, I'm at work.
Yep.
And he's just like, it was so foreign to him that anybody would, he thought I was partying or something. I don't know what he thought I was doing. Yeah. But it was normal to me and normal to lots of people. I think the world doesn't realize how many people work odd shifts and schedules, and the 9 to 5 is what everyone talks about, but there are so many people that fall outside of that in all kinds of different jobs.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's one of you either get like one of two things, like whenever, like you're talking about your buddy being like, what the hell do you mean? But like, like I have like some family members who will kind of be like that, or you always get like like you're still trying to do the band thing, and it's just like, oh, like you mean my job, like I like have been doing for like 2 decades nearly, like yeah, I still do that. So yeah, it's just funny, like, but I think it's hard for people to understand who, just 9 to 5 is like really the only thing that they know. So it's like a very crazy concept, unless you're like in the military, that you're just traveling that much for work and making money, like I think that's like the thing that shocks people the most, is just you hear all of these bands talking about how like it's not like a fruitful career and everything. And I just think that a lot of that really just depends on whether you're smart about it or not. Obviously there's a level of success that you need to reach to be able to obtain that. But I mean, it's just like any other job. Like you take it seriously and you work hard, like, you're going to make a living. So.
Hi, I'm Vincent, and I'm here to talk about the Maris Mercury X. My dad's always going on and on about how cool Maris is. He really went off on one about the Mercury X the other day. He said something about a 4,800 hertz sample rate and 99 preset locations and 33 banks, and something along the lines of the most advanced reverb pedal ever devised by man? That's all true, but I only care about one thing. This pedal sounds sick. So make sure you check out the Mercury X and all the other fine products at maris.us, as well as fine retailers worldwide. All right, Dad, now can I have my Pocky?
How exactly do artists get their music on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, all these services? How in the world do you get your music there? Well, in the past, you had to use something called a record label. But these days, you can use DistroKid. DistroKid is the absolute easiest way to get your music up on streaming services, and it's the most affordable way to do so. Not only do plans start at $22.99 for the entire year, that's less than $2 a month, DistroKid also does not take a cut of your streaming revenue, unlike some other services out there. Even better if you sign up by going to tonemob.com/distrokid. That's tonemob.com/distrokid. One more time, that's tonemob.com/distrokid. You'll get 30% off. That's right, 30% off their already extremely reasonable prices. So go to tonemob.com/distrokid and get your music out there. And I think it really depends. That's not to make it sound like it's all sunshine and roses or anything, but I think whether you can, everybody's, how should I say this? Everybody's viewpoint on what success looks like is different. Mm-hmm. You know, for me, just the fact that I get to do it and I can do it consistently and full time, like this is my job. Wow. Yep. That's like, to me, I'm like, cool. One, check that off. Like that's success to me. To some people, they might go like, man, that guy doesn't make hardly any money, you know, to me, but I'm comfortable and I'm fine. It really just depends on your viewpoint, I suppose. Some people, maybe they're looking at it like, oh, we don't make as much money as Gene Simmons, so therefore there's no money in it, even though they, you know, they might make six figures or something. Who knows?
Totally. Yeah, man. And it's like, you never know what can happen with things like that. I mean, you know, I ate for a long time, and would be gone, you know, the same amount of time, just be like, you know, like I brought like $800 home, you know, it's like, it's not, I don't think that I would be doing this anymore if that were still the case. Like, I'm sure, you know, like as you get older, it's like things like that, as much as you may not want them to, like, start to matter whenever it's just like, even if it started as kind of like a passion project. Like when I started, I was just like, dude, like, I don't really care. Like, you know, this is amazing. I'm getting to go out and do what I love, which all is still true. It's just like, I don't know that I could do it if I, you know, wasn't able to like provide. So not to get into like a whole like financial aspect of like touring like super quickly, but
it's worth talking about though. I think pulling back that curtain and letting people know what really goes on and what it really takes, because that's the thing is almost everybody I know that has went from the ground up, whether that's in business or in a band or in any pursuit where they kind of started from zero or close to zero, it's the story's all the ways the same. It's like, oh yeah, we didn't make any money for like 5+ years.
Yep.
And I think some people will hear that and go, how do you not make any money? Did you have a rich daddy? You know, like you have to make money. And I think people get that distorted. It's like, okay, we didn't make any money as the band or as the company or whatever. So I had to then also work all these other jobs to support myself, is what that typically means. And I think that gets a little bit lost in the shuffle. So when you say you weren't doing well for a while, I don't imagine you were 110% relying on the band, even though you were putting 110% of your effort into those projects, right?
Yeah. It was difficult though, because like whenever you do tour that much, unless you're just like extremely lucky, it's really hard to hold like a job that will continue to let you leave that often. So for, you know, so many years, it would be like, get home from a tour, find a new job, you know, leave for the next tour, have to quit that job, like come back, find something else. You know what I mean? Like, but you can't, like, I did, you know, I was lucky, I'd say, throughout most of like my late 20s touring. I was working at a sandwich shop in Atlanta, and my boss was like super cool and was just like, yeah, like just let me know like a week before you come back, I'll put you back on the schedule. And like that was like amazing, because then I didn't have as much to worry about. You know, I was still working in between tours, but it was a little bit more obtainable to just be like, okay, like I can pay my rent because I'm able to like work this other job. But I think whenever people do try to make like a band like their primary focus, it's like you kind of got to just like be honest with yourself and be like, hey, like if you're not making any money, you should probably like try to like do something else on top of all of that, like to survive, you know? So yeah, I mean, it's It's a hard lifestyle. It's been a long road, but if the right amount of there's like definitely some luck involved, but like talent and success, like you can definitely make like just being in a full-time band like your career, like if all of the elements are there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, putting that work in and being willing to do that. You were saying you just said how lucky you were to have a job at a sandwich shop. A lot of people wouldn't view that as a lucky situation.
Totally.
It's about the attitude and how you go about the grind. And that's not to like say like everyone needs to work 24/7, 365 all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're trying to do something as difficult as be in a band, which millions of people want to do, only a few get to, and the primary outlier there is how much you're willing to sacrifice and work to make it happen. And I think that is becoming more and more apparent. Some people still have a view of it that I think is inaccurate. Like you said, family saying, oh, you're still trying to do the band thing.
Yeah.
I get and you make a living off of that, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yes, I do. And I know they're not trying to be insulting when they say that. It's more of a genuine surprised reaction.
But they also kind of don't believe you, or else they wouldn't ask. You know what I mean? It's just like, come on, dude. Like, I don't know. I just think that that's a very like, typically like older people will ask me that and don't, really understand like the ways that like the internet have moved, and like that you can do crazy things from your home and make like loads of money just because of like how much things have progressed like in the last decade.
Just before COVID, I still had to explain to every single person that came on this show how we were going to record. Now, granted, I'm using a different software now, but nobody knew how to do it. In 2015, when I started, they were like, well, how are we going to record? I'm like, okay, we're going to do this, and this, and blah, blah. Here's a Zoom call. Here's a what, really had to hold people's hand. And now it's just like, hey, here's what we're doing. And everyone's like, okay, there's no question about it.
Because every band dude ever streamed on Twitch during COVID because that was the only thing you could do to make any money. So now everybody's like, myself included, I've got like this camera set up and like, but yeah, it's funny how kind of time changes things like that.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I kind of interrupted your train of thought there. But
no, it's totally fine. That's a really funny point that after COVID, I'm sure everyone was just like, oh yeah, sure. Like, yep, be there at 11, like no setup time or anything. That's funny.
Yep. But yeah, it is kind of funny that people still, even with all that, and everybody knows things have changed. Everyone has a supercomputer in their pocket, no matter what age they are practically. Mm-hmm. And even still, people are like, so you can make a living doing that, huh? I'm sure people would hear like Fitz music, like, and be like, wow, people like that screaming stuff, huh? Mm-hmm. It's been a thing for like 45 years now, or however long hardcore stuff's been around, maybe longer. And people still don't fully realize how many different options there are in this day and age, which is kind of fascinating to me as somebody who's obsessed with different options.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing after COVID, I feel like predominantly heavy music is bigger than ever right now.
Yeah.
You see all of these different tours selling out and like doing so well. And it's really cool to see, man. Like it is, I don't know if it was just, a lot of people released really great music, or if after, spending 2 years in like solitary confinement, essentially in some states, that people are just like, we miss this so much. We're not going to take this for granted anymore. But like, it really is amazing to see how like well, like everything is going like in the heavy music world. It's really cool.
I wanted to ask you about that. I've brought this up on a few episodes lately. The one that really shook my brain and made me realize that it's having a real moment is how explosive Lorna Shore's growth has been. Mm-hmm. Because if you hear that band, and you're not familiar with this scene at all, you might be scared. Like they're a very extreme band by pretty much any measure. And the fact that they have almost pop levels of success is mind-blowing to 14-year-old me whose parents were concerned that I was listening to Unearth, like
Yeah, oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you think it was COVID? Do you think it's just more people realize that lots of people listen to this, or it became more socially acceptable? What do you attribute it to as somebody that's in it?
I think that it's a few things. I do believe that the COVID thing is a thing. I think that a lot of people were just like, we got to go to shows. Like we miss this so much. I think that there is a level of that, but I've also seen, there's a lot of bands like that who have been just like doing extremely well. So I think there's been like a big like resurgence of like death metal and deathcore.
Mm-hmm.
Like that has been really cool. I mean, like bands like Shadow of Intent, like Lorna, like there's like a bunch of new bands who like are insane that, the last bands that were really doing things like that are like, I put it into like categories of like, older bands. Now you got all these like up and comers, but it's like, you got things like the Black Dahlia Murder and like Suicide Silence, bands like that. Now you've got all of like these like young bucks who are coming in, and it's like they're even crazier. Like, so I think the music has just gotten even more extreme, and yeah, there's just like a big popularity around that style that we've seen, and it is crazy to see a band like Lorna Shore do as well as they have, and I think that the internet is another factor, because there's so many more like viral moments now that can help so many things. I mean, this is like a little bit of a different example, but like TikTok, for example. I don't use it. I don't even really like, I've seen videos, but that's the first thing that in my lifetime that someone's been like, hey, this is a thing now. And I'm like, oh, I'm getting old. I don't understand this,
Yes.
But it has been crazy to see, like To the Hellfire, like all the crazy, like pig noises, like kind of popped off on there. And then boom, like big band. Like we just did a tour with Pierce the Veil, and a song that's freaking 10 years old, like explodes on TikTok. And now you've got all these like 14-year-old kids, like obsessed with Pierce the Veil. And it's like, this song was written like before you were born, dude.
Right.
Like, so like, I think that that's a huge factor as well. That there's just so many tools to like put these things directly in people's like hands and ears, whatever. Like it's pretty wild.
Mm-hmm. I can make an argument both ways, but in my view, for your average person who wants to do music for a living, I don't think there's ever been a better time to try to do stuff. Now, is it crowded? Is there a lot of noise to cut through? Is it difficult? Yeah, but it's always been difficult. Mm-hmm. Back in the 70s, you didn't make a video, put it on TikTok, and have anybody see it. You got in a van and toured around the country constantly, playing every single dive bar that you possibly could, in hopes that one or two people might think it was cool and buy a vinyl, if you could afford to go record one, which most people couldn't. And now we can record really great sounding music in our houses, and publish it for anyone to find. And I don't know, to me, like, some people say there's like a quantity thing going on. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of good stuff out there, and it's never been a better time to get started. What do you think about that?
I would agree. It definitely is oversaturated and always has been, but you're right. Like, using the internet as a tool is a great thing. I mean, I can remember in my first touring band having to mail out like flyers for like that, like the show in that area, like a couple weeks before the show, so that we could put them up in coffee shops and record stores and stuff like that, so people would even know about it. You know what I mean? It's like things like MySpace like existed, but I mean, it wasn't like it was just like we were doing things in like the old school way, and then you see things like Spotify being born, and a lot of bands that were touring back then couldn't really figure out how to like move with the changes. So like you had all of these like new bands kind of coming up with like these younger kids, like that band that I was in, like I was the youngest guy in that band by like several years. So, you know, they were dudes who had been doing it, you know, since like late 90s, early 2000s kind of thing. And yeah, it was like really hard for them to figure out like how to like move with the changes. But I agree with you. I think now that like, dude, like technology is such a crazy thing, and it truly is. Like you can get it in anybody's hands that you want, with like the click of a few buttons, you know. But that being said, it's even more oversaturated now than ever. So it's, you know, your chances of like success are still pretty low, I would say, unless it's just it hits and it's all of those elements that we were talking about earlier are there, you know.
I think the chances of success have always been low. You know, that I always have thought that it was, you know, as much as people want to talk about the glory days when you can make money off record sales and all that, only a small, tiny handful of bands actually made money off of record sales, even then.
Yeah.
Most of that went to the labels and the deals and all that stuff. So few people made any real money off of records, even when you could quote unquote make money off of records. And so I don't know. I don't feel like the game's always been kind of, I don't want to say rigged against the artist, because that's not entirely true, but it's always been hard. And the only difference now is that it's just a different kind of hard, I think, is the way I view it. But it's cool though, because I get to do things like this and talk to people like you that this didn't exist before the internet. So for all of its bad points, I got to give the internet some credit.
The internet's pretty cool, man. Like it's definitely made the world that we're in, more entertaining, excuse me. And, B, just like, you know, what's going on, like things that you know, may have struggled to find out about, like back in the day. It's just like, oh, there it is, just scrolling through Instagram. Like now I know that so-and-so is going to be here in like a couple weeks, you know, like it's pretty cool.
It is. It's very cool. I just had a weird flashback. You remember purevolume.com? You remember that? Was that? So
definitely.
My band had a couple songs on there, and I forgot that I used to do this, and this is the hackiest thing. But I had that Pure Volume page posted, and I would make random accounts on Yahoo Answers.
Okay.
And I would ask, because Yahoo Answers was primarily just like, what's the word? It wasn't really algorithmic. It was it was time based. Basically, it would pop up. Okay. Whatever was newest would pop up first. So I put in the like, hey, what do you guys think about this band, and hit it, and just to see like 20 people go and like listen to the band. It was kind of a weird hack just to get people's feedback. Yeah. And people started catching on, of course. Some people are like, stop pushing people to your band page, you know. But largely people would go and listen and leave feedback. And I remember thinking how crazy that was at the time. Yeah. And now that's just on steroids.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the grind, baby. Like you got to like do whatever you can to get like your music in people's ears, dude. Like it's always been that way. So
yeah. It's a tough thing, but you got to think back to like, how did you find your favorite bands?
Totally.
It wasn't by accident.
Yeah.
So somebody had to push that to you at some point somehow, whether it was your friend or whatever. But all of your favorite bands came from some sort of guerrilla marketing at some point.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So who inspires you these days? Who do you look up to, like when you're just trying to write or trying to get some inspiration? Who are you putting on and listening to right now?
Man, that's a good question, because I used to like listen to like a whole lot of like influences, like to kind of get in the mood for like writing and everything. But nowadays I listen to like a lot of like almost like a lot of like top 40 and stuff like that, more so for like song structure ideas and things like that, as opposed to like getting in like I've been writing metalcore for 20 years. Like I know how it works, you know, like I know how to like make riffs and stuff, but for me more so it's about like just like structure of a song and just like actually like big picture as opposed to just like, oh, like these little parts like are all like so cool. Yeah, I still like all of that, but I found that the most successful songs are always going to be songs that are just like just good songs. You know what I mean? You could have the coolest riff in like the song and it would be like, oh yeah, that's a cool riff. But like if you got a good song, then that's what's really going to catch people's attention. So it's difficult to answer. I definitely like still have like all of my like big influences. I mean, you know, like you were mentioning like bands like Unearth, like As I Lay Dying, really anything that sounds like '05 metalcore.
Yeah.
Like that's like my thing for sure. So yeah, I mean, you know, I still listen to metal like at times. I listen to a lot of pop punk now. My wife and I are really into pop punk. But really just like anything that's like it could be any genre, anything that I just think is like a well-written song is kind of like what inspires me nowadays. Yeah. So.
And I think that's become, it sounds kind of weird to say. I don't know if this is because of the internet or if people just got tired of being pigeonholed, but that's become more acceptable in niche scenes to say that you listen to a lot of other things. I remember back when I was growing up, we're the same age. If you were into punk, you didn't talk about what Britney Spears song you liked. You know, that wasn't cool. Now it's not really cool to just listen to one thing. Yep. It's a very, very weird shift. I like it. I like the shift.
Same. I always thought that was so whack, dude, that like, if, you know, it's like metal if you want to like metal, but like, dude, there are so many other like types of music. I just think that comes with like maturing and stuff, you know, like when we were kids, like everybody's just like, you know, that sucks or what, you know,
for posers, bro.
Yeah. So it's like, and I'm sure that there are, you know, people our age who may still kind of have that mentality, but I just think you're doing yourself a disservice if like you're missing out on so many other things. If you're passionate about music as a whole, like it's, there's so many great things out there that I don't know why you would want to limit yourself to just one like super underground niche genre.
Yeah, exactly. Because you never know what's going to grab your ears. You never know what's going to make you tap your toes and like, oh, I like this. Yeah. And we would do the dumbest things too. I'm sure you remember all this, but I remember like for some reason it was, if you were a hardcore kid, it was acceptable to listen to New Found Glory because they came from hardcore. But if you listen to any band that sounded exactly the same as New Found Glory that didn't come from a hardcore band, all of a sudden it was like, no, you can't, no, you can't be doing that. No, I guess H2O, you know, they get a little poppy sometimes, but that's as far as we can go. Just such a dumb mentality.
What area are you from?
Portland, Oregon.
Okay, yeah, like I was going to say that's definitely like I feel like that's more of like a coastal thing. Like any state that's like along the coasts are very, I've definitely noticed more so of that. Like whenever you get very specific about like, oh, we can listen to New Found Glory because they came from hardcore or whatever. I definitely like in Atlanta, there was a lot of that kind of thing happening. But yeah, dude, it's funny. Like who cares?
Who cares?
Know?
Like what you like.
Yeah.
I like George Michael. I'm not one bit ashamed about it. I love George Michael. I'm saying it on the air.
Like what you want to like. You know, no one should be able to tell you like what's good or what's bad. Everything is subjective. Like that's for you to decide. Like clearly a lot of people like George Michael. He's very successful. Like he's like on the radio all the time, you know? So of course. It's not weird to like things like that.
We are brought to you today by Sweetwater, specifically the Gear Exchange. You may have heard about this. This is a place where you can go to buy and sell your used gear. Maybe you got a pedal over there that's just kind of collecting dust. Maybe there's something you've been eyeing from the Sweetwater catalog. Well, right now is a great time to turn that unused gear into something you're actually going to use. Even better, if you sell on the Gear Exchange, you can keep 100% of the sale as long as you choose a Sweetwater gift card as your payout method. That is not too shabby because Let's be honest, most of this buying and selling we do is just to fund new gear purchases, and that is a great way to reach a wide variety of customers and keep 100% in your pocket, or rather on your pedal board. So go check out the Sweetwater Gear Exchange and turn that unused gear into something that's actually going to help you write that next huge riff.
Hello there. I'd like to introduce you to your new best friend, the Chase Bliss Audio Lossy. Lossy is a collaboration between Chase Bliss and Good Hertz. And it's meant to give you some control over those weird digital artifacts that come with very compressed audio. You're hearing it right now. All the changes that are taking place are strictly coming from my playing dynamics. I'm just interacting with the pedal and letting it do its thing. In some true stereo goodness. If you'd like some more details about Lossy, I'd invite you to head over to chaseblinssaudio.com. I think you're gonna like what you find.
Totally. So, do you have anything? We're getting sort of close-ish to the end of the podcast, and I have some classic questions I like to dive into with the guests.
Cool.
But before we do that, I like to give the guests a chance to take the floor, say anything they want to say, plug anything they want to plug, shout out anybody they want to shout out. You got a few thousand people you're talking to right now, so.
Word. I can't announce anything just yet, but we're going to be announcing a summer tour very soon. That's going to be a pretty big arena gig tour, so that'll be very cool. This
Sweet.
is all with Fit for a King. Be on the lookout for that. Lot more touring coming up this year. I have the next 3 months off, and I'm very, very excited about that.
Nice.
Starting in July, throughout the rest of the year, it's going to be just tour once again. So a lot of cool tour announcements coming up. It's a really big co-headliner tour that we're doing later this year. That's going to be a big one as well. So just keep an eye out for touring. I mean, that's really most of what we're doing. We're going to start writing for a new record in May. Those are the plans. That's pretty much it. Other than that, I'm just going to be chilling, sitting at home, catching up on sleep. That's about it.
Yeah, you deserve it, man. Well, that sounds very cool. I look forward to seeing that tour announcement. Hopefully you're coming through the Portland area. That would be sick. We can eat some pizza and hang out or whatever.
Would love that.
That'd be great. But yeah, this has been a really good chat. I really enjoyed hanging out, spending the time. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thank you again for having me. It's been awesome.
Of course. All right. So first of the final questions, and this one usually I anticipated this one being a little bit harder for people to answer, but most people are pretty on it.
All right.
What is your favorite Boss pedal?
Oh, man. That is tough for me. And I'll try not to give too long-winded of an answer here.
Go as long as you got. Go for it.
I used to, every Christmas, my grandmother would get me one pedal, and I was a big Boss pedal guy. And
Ooh.
I mean, this was from age 9 until probably 20 or something. So I have so many.
That is awesome. I love that.
And what's funny is when I was young, I would always just be ooh, I want on the flanger or the phaser that I would never use now. But dude, I think that probably the most important one and really the only one that I still use, I'd have to go with the tuner.
The tuner. That's got to be the most popular response. The TU2.
I figured it'd either be that or the what is it, the metal zone or whatever.
The metal zone, the MT2. Yeah.
I think that tuner seems like it would make sense. I think that's still on that it still exists in a lot of people's rigs, I'm sure. So,
do you still have all of those pedals? that your grandma got you?
I don't have them here. They're all like in like at my parents' house in Georgia somewhere. Like since I don't run a live like rig anymore, all that stuff's just built in. I don't have it, but I should probably get those just to like have at the house, mess around with. It'd be fun.
Oh, it's a good time, especially if you're doing production stuff. You bring them out, reamp things, and tweak things in real time. It'd be a blast.
Yep.
So do you have any? You said you don't use like flangers or phasers or anything anymore. But when you are putting together the rigs, like in the Quad Cortex, are you using anything that used to be outboard gear for you primarily? Any of those Boss pedals or anything like that you are purposely integrating into the Quad?
So we haven't gotten the quads yet, so I can't comment on that. I'll have to like kind of learn how to use all of that once we do get them. But I can say for the Kemper, I have kind of an interesting setup. I have essentially profiled a tone I made from like a bunch of like STL amps combined.
Oh, interesting.
And it sounds crazy. And I profiled that through the Kemper just to like have something that I could like use for like my own tone. And I've been using that for a while now, and it's served me pretty well. We do like some effects, like nothing crazy, but there'll be like some time-based stuff. Everything runs off of like the Mio cable through MIDI, so like all of our patch changes fire like automatically and everything. But I mean, it's pretty standard. I mean, outside of really just like delay and like reverb, and then just like some like pitch stuff, like an octaver, like use a good bit. But that's about it. Like nothing like really like zany or like wacky sounding, So
this is a little bit of a sidebar, and we'll get into the last question. But how does I understand how profiling works with the like a real quote unquote rig in the room. How do you do it with STL stuff? Did you have like two computers, or I don't understand. I'm confused. I'm old man.
It's somewhat the same way. Just like you have to have like your lines all set up correctly from like the interface to the Kemper. But essentially like you can have like a profile like that already exists like on the Kemper that's like kind of close to whatever you're going for. If it's like a distorted profile, it needs to be a distorted tone kind of thing. But then you just take all the gating off, because Kemper has like its own way of like doing its gating for the tone. And then you basically just arm it, and you can like play just the same way that you would, profile like with a microphone. But it's all like in the manual and everything. It'll explain how to do it, but it's pretty easy. And the results, like, I mean, I can't tell the difference other than Kemper does like a special thing, I feel like with profiling, especially if it's from like, a plugin or something. And the only difference that I can tell is a positive one. It feels like the IR that like I guess Kemper gives it almost makes it feel like there's more movement. It feels more like even more like playing through like an actual amp.
Interesting.
Which is like really crazy, but that's really like everything sounds the same. It just like the feel of it like is a little bit better, I think, after profiling through the Kemper.
That's very unexpected.
Yeah, I swear, man, it's got like a magical thing that it does like with its profiling. I'm excited to try that with the Quad. I'm sure that Neural has been doing like amazing things, so I can only expect that the Quad is just gonna like blow me away. But yeah, it's cool. I was always a guy to play out of, amp and cab, like monitors, whole thing. And until joining Fit for a King, and we're all on in-ears, and, we don't have cabs on stage, which every time I get to play a show with a cab, I'm like, oh, I miss this so much. Yeah, I never realized how much I really like the feel, Sometimes people don't realize, like, it sounds amazing through the house and everything, but a lot of the guys who are on in-ears, no cabs and stuff, you're on stage and it just kind of feels like you're, I always tell people it's like, I it's like listening to music on an airplane. Like that's
Yeah.
about the volume, like it's not like very exciting. You kind of have to, you learn to feed more off of the crowd than like the feel and like the sound that you're getting from stage. So it's, it was a learning curve for sure.
I think that would really throw me off. I've only recently got into more digital stuff, and even still, like, I don't play it through headphones. I got it blasting through my studio monitors, which are pretty sizable, and a sub. So it's like a lot closer to how a real amp feels. But like you said, even still, like I'll turn around and then plug into my real amps and go like, ha 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 ha. This is why I started playing. That seems like it would be almost slightly disconnected. I love in-ears. I'm a big proponent of in-ears, but going in-ear only freaks me out a little bit.
It's weird, and it's uncovered. Maybe not so much to the house, because I feel like anytime things are coming through speakers, it's going to sound and feel a little bit better. But man, when you just got those in-ears in, I mean, you can hear every tiny little mistake. It's a cab does a great job of covering up a lot of bullshit that's happening. You know what I mean? So
maybe that's why I like it.
Yeah, same. So it's definitely like kind of checked me a few times as far as like, oh, you need to clean some of that playing up, But yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's like I'm the only one that's hearing it in that way, so it's like but I'm also the kind of guy that will beat myself up about like missing like one pinch harmonic like in a show. You know what I mean? Very, very perfectionist, very like critical of myself. So
right.
So yeah,
got it. All right, dude. Here we go. Final question. This is the one that gets a little bit controversial, a little bit dicey.
I'm ready.
What is your favorite kind of pizza?
Oh man, that's tough too. I
can see the gears turning in your head right now.
I know. I'm in between two right now, and they're not untraditional, but I wouldn't think that, I don't know, maybe you don't get a lot of these answers. It's between like a white pizza, like ricotta cheese, like white pizza.
Yeah.
Or like an Alfredo source, like Alfredo chicken, Alfredo bacon, like something along those lines would probably be my go-tos.
All right. You got a favorite pizzeria or a location that first introduced you to the white pies?
Dude, there were like a lot of good local spots in Atlanta that had some cool stuff, but I do get flack for this, but dude, honestly, like if I'm in the mood for pizza now, like I'm going Domino's. Like,
yeah,
I think it's pretty sick, to be honest. I'm not like the biggest, like there's always also the New York Chicago dilemma. And I also get flack for this, but I'm definitely more of a Chicago deep dish kind of guy than the New York thin crust. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't know what kind of answers you normally get, but that's where I stand with pizza.
I've gotten all of the answers at this point.
Okay,
yeah,
that's good.
We're 340 something episodes deep, so yeah, I've gotten pretty much every answer, I think.
Nice.
Domino's, in my opinion, I got a couple opinions on chain pizza right now.
Let's hear 'em.
For the generally available, I don't, for lack of a better term, like McDonald's of pizza.
Sure.
I'd say like Domino's is the Wendy's of pizza.
Okay.
Like it's the best widely available 2 a.m. pizza. That's in every town, in every city, everywhere. Consistent. So, and I used to not think this, but do you remember the ad campaign they did? I want to say maybe 8-10 years ago, where they were basically like, "We heard you. Our pizza sucks, and we're gonna change." Once they did that, it did indeed get a lot better.
I did not see that, but it is definitely better than I remember it being when I was younger.
It is better. It 100% is, because I remember that ad campaign worked on me. I was like, Domino's does suck. All right, let's go see if they've changed, and they did. It got a lot better than it was.
I mean, hey, you gotta respect it. That's pretty amazing. You don't want Pizza Hut. You get Hut butt from that. No one wants that.
Nobody wants that.
Little Caesars is like it's fine, I guess. It's cheap.
It's cheap, and I think people make the mistake of getting the regular Little Caesars. The trick with Little Caesars is to get the thin crust because
interesting.
It's better. It's crispier. It feels less cheap, even though it's still the same price. It just you take it out and if you blind just handed it to somebody and didn't tell them it was Little Caesars, I think if you give them the thin crust, they probably wouldn't know it was Little Caesars. Interesting. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's hard to beat for $5 or $5.50.
Yeah, I mean, dude, those little hot and readies, like you're getting your money's worth, I would say. Like it's not too bad. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm not a big thin crust guy. Like if you give me any like and I'm gonna apologize to the whole Northeast before making this comment, but if you give me like any like New York slice, just be like, yeah, it's just kind of tastes like something you'd get at like a skate country, like a roller rink or something.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
That's just, I don't know. That's where my brain goes with thin crust. Definitely more of a thick, hearty pizza kind of guy.
So you like a Detroit style? Have you gotten into that at all?
I don't know that I'm familiar with the Detroit style. I really just know the Chicago and the New York. I think those are the two that everyone kind of always will compare. But what's a Detroit style?
So Detroit is like kind of a spin on a Sicilian, if you've ever seen that. So it's a thicker crust, usually cooked in a pan. And it's my favorite. I should say I like Chicago style pizza. But it's not what I'm craving when I'm like, I'm in the mood for pizza. I'm not thinking about that. I think of that as like a pizza cousin, like a calzone. A calzone's not really a pizza, but it's kind of a pizza flavored thing. And that's how I view Chicago deep dish as well.
That's fair. That's fair.
But the Detroit style or the Sicilian style, I know they're not the same. Don't come at me, people. They're similar though. It's going to be like roughly about a half-inch thick of bread on the bottom of the crust.
I could get down with that. Yeah. That sounds good.
And, traditional sauce and cheese and meat, like whatever toppings. But the interesting thing about the bread is, sometimes you get especially the cheaper, thicker crusts, they're really dense and thick and kind of like, it's like eating like a solid piece of bread. A good Detroit style has got a little bit of air in it. It's a little lighter. It's not quite as intense of a chew as, say, like a Domino's thick crust type of thing.
I will also say I'm also a crust waster, unless it's like cheese filled or something. Because when eating pizza, I want all of the good contents, and I want to eat as much of it as possible.
Sure.
Very small frame guy. I eat like a bird most of the time. So, I will say that, doing something deep dish is definitely going to be a lot more filling because of just like how much like bread and stuff is going on. But I typically will not eat the crust because it's just like, well, no, I only want like the bread with like the good stuff on it. If I wanted just like bread with like some seasoning, then I would just get like
garlic bread
or something,
right?
So yeah, that's another like I guess good point to make with my my pizza endeavors.
Yeah, that's worth noting, and I might get some hate for this as well. I also will ditch some of the crust sometimes, especially on cheaper pizza, because it's similar. Like I want all the good stuff, and I don't necessarily need all like. I guess how's a better way to frame this? If I'm going to eat all them carbs, they better be really good. So if I'm going to eat the whole pizza and crust and all, it's usually from like a nicer pizza place where the crust is just super delicious.
Yeah.
Or I cannot get rid of that crust because it's part of the whole experience and work of art. Where it's like Domino's, I'm going to eat like the part that just has the meat and cheese on it. And I don't need that. It's like 200 less calories.
Helps to have something to dip too. Like if you got like a ranch or garlic, I could like
garlic butter.
A little, I can get down with that.
Yeah. Or even extra like marinara. Do something,
Something's got to, you can't just be eating bread,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Or it better be good bread if you're going to.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, dude, thank you so much for hanging out. This was a blast. I really enjoyed the conversation. I enjoyed the insight, and I'm excited to see what we get into on Patreon.
Absolutely, man. Let's do it.
All right, sounds good. All right, everybody. For Daniel, this is Blake, and as always, folks, good luck and good tones. Alrighty, folks, there you have it. Thank you so much for hanging out. Daniel and I had a great time, and we had an even better time over on Patreon. If you would like to support this show, help it keep going, help me personally, Patreon is a perfect place to do that, where for $5 a month, you will get additional episodes like the one I was just describing with Daniel. Yes, there are bonus episodes every week published over on Patreon, and you can get access to those for just $5 buckaroos. And if you're a person who just isn't super stoked on ads, for $3 a month, you can get the ad-free feed. And of course, the $5 level comes with both of those things. So thank you so much to everyone that's done that. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you again to everyone who came by the Stringjoy NAMM booth and said hello. That was really, really wonderful. I really, really enjoyed talking to all of you. And thank you for making it this far into this episode. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and spending any time at all on any of the content that I produce. I really, really appreciate it. Make sure you check out Fit for a King. Go give Daniel a follow on Instagram and all that good stuff. You know what to do. Thank you very much, folks. I will talk to you very soon. One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.
Hey everyone, this is Tuck from Fit for a King, an off-road minivan. Every week I bring you fun interviews alongside your favorite metalcore entertainers with my new podcast, Get Tucked. Join me every Monday with bands like Counterparts, Crystal Lake, like Moths to Flames, and many more. We play unsigned and undiscovered bands, deep dive into each artist's history, and of course provide the greatest breakdowns in current metalcore. Tune in to Get Tucked every Monday, out now through Sound Talent Media.
Hello out there! Yes, hello out there, everyone. I'm Hal Schwartz.
And I'm Flynn McLean. Together we host None But the Brave, a podcast dedicated to the music and career of Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce and E Street Band are on tour right now for the first time in 6 years, and we're taking a detailed look at what's happening on stage in our bi-weekly episodes.
We've also been recently joined by some very exciting guests, including rock journalist Warren Zanes and Stephen Hayden, Backstreet's Magazine founder Charles Cross, and Barstool's Kirk Minahan.
If you're a diehard Springsteen fan, this is the show for you.
So please subscribe to None But the Brave on your favorite podcasting platform, and we hope to see you further on up the road.
Thank you so much. We'll be seeing you.